What is going on, Kim? Another Wednesday.
Another Wednesday, and here we are again.
Oh man, how you been?
I am, I'm busy as always. My daughter is off from school like until after Labor Day. So I am literally like full-time mom duty going on, but I'm loving every single minute of it. But it's just like jam-packed. Like I go out and work whenever I literally have a free minute. So it's just been a little crazy, but it's all good.
You are the hardest worker that I think I know. If you're not making content, you're either momming or you're driving. I've got kind of the opposite situation going on. My son goes back to school here in a couple of days, so I'm trying to get ready for that. But I had, yeah, I've kind of had a little bit of a rough go the last few days. I got really sick out of nowhere, and so that was a couple nights ago. And then yesterday I spent like all day in bed. And today I don't have a whole lot of energy and I'm feeling really persnickety. So this should be an interesting show.
Like, watch out, world. Here comes it.
Oh boy. We got some stories that I feel like laying into as well.
Ooh.
So it's going to be quite a jam-packed show. I'm excited for this one. We are going to talk about Dara getting candid with the media about doing deliveries and rideshare for Uber and Uber Eats. We're going to play Guess the Hidden Tip, and then I'm going to probably go on a tirade. We're going to talk about Chris and Sergio's interview on Show Me the Money Club with a man named Ali Kashani. He is the CEO of Serve Robotics. We're going to see if they asked the right questions, and we're going to analyze Ali's answers to see if he gave the appropriate responses. We are going to talk about Doordash getting fined a lot of money for violating a local law. We're going to show you a crazy order, and we're going to ask for your participation on whether or not you would take it. We're going to also discuss if DoorDash thinks drivers are idiots in my opinion, passive-aggressive message that they sent out. We're going to talk about two men who scammed Uber Eats out of more than $1 million. $1 million, Kim. That is a lot of money.
That is a lot of money for two people.
Yeah. And then finally, we are going to wrap it up with the funnies. So welcome to everybody who's joining us. And thank you for watching. For everybody on the replay, we appreciate you guys being here. So, Kim, let's just jump right into Dara's deliveries.
Okay. I'm excited for today's show.
I'm excited for it too. I'm feeling fiery though, so we'll see how this plays out.
Okay, let's do it.
So, all right. So I called this one Dara Did It. So Dara Khosrowshahi. I'm still working on being able to pronounce this dude's last name. He's just Dara. Okay. So he went out and actually he purchased a used Tesla, first of all. Went out and did both rideshare and delivery. And he got pretty candid with the media about his experiences. So, Kim, right off the bat, this isn't the first time that we've seen a high-level executive doing the actual work, right? We see this with DoorDash with the We Dash program. One of their other top executives, I think it's Stanley Tang or something like that, is frequently in the media for being spotted out in the wild doing the work. So right off the bat, what is your take on Dara doing this?
I think I said this with, with DoorDash, with their program that they had when I think it was Stanley, I think that was his name, did this a couple weeks ago, is unless they are going to consistently do it and actually do more than like a couple of deliveries to get like a true account, they're really not going to get what drivers are going to go through unless they literally drive for a period of time, not just a couple of orders. And I feel like a lot of times these people go into the media and say, well, I drove for my company. I'm the best person ever. Go look at me. And I think us drivers are like, yeah, okay, well, how many orders did you really do? Did you do like 5? Because that's not a true account of what we go through. So to me, until they actually do a substantial amount of deliveries, I don't know whether it makes a difference in the company.
Do you think that you hit a point where you've taken a certain number of orders and then you're just kind of an expert in your market? And if so, what would you say that number is?
Oh God. I think it's more longevity and orders, to be honest with you. I mean, I think about myself in my journey. I think I started out with just DoorDash and then I added Uber Eats. So
Yeah.
I think it took a couple months to learn my market, to learn just the restaurants and what's good, what's bad, wait times, not wait times, even your own streets to navigate to make it quicker and more efficient as a driver. So those are just like a couple of components. But as far as being an expert on the app, I don't think it takes us that as long as learning your market, just because these apps make it really easy to know it as a driver. I think it's knowing the other things that makes it a little bit more complicated.
I'm not saying you're wrong in your perspective, because I mean, you definitely have some validity to what you're saying. I see it a little different though. I think that it takes one full year of driving to have an accurate representation of what you can expect at all times in your market. So, I mean, for example, in many markets, they only do road construction in the summer, right? Or, there might be a place that's dead in the winter that's a hot spot in the summer, so on and so forth, And as like there's the stuff that you can learn within a couple of months, like staffing changes and stuff like that. But I would argue it probably takes a good year of driving before you actually can say, like, I am an expert in my market. So you look like you had a thought.
No, I'm just thinking about what you're saying. And you have a very valid point too. I think it does take seasonalities to know the seasonality piece of driving, because you're going to make more money in December opposed
Sure.
to being in the summer. So like that piece I completely get. But knowing the app and how it works, to me, I feel like that's like you get it as soon as you start doing a couple of orders. But what
Yeah.
I think you do need time for, and where you would come into place, is there are so many situations that you don't deal with until you're actually in the situation.
Until you deal
And
with it.
that takes time. Like the
Yeah.
problems that you arise, you don't know how to deal with until you're actually in the situation. And it's not like you're going to have a situation every single order. And I think that kind of goes back to, Dara going undercover, so to speak, is you're not going to know all these problems that arise just by going through a couple of orders at a time.
So he went undercover as Dave K. And I actually just did a video about this here on RSG. So it was fun to kind of dig into this and to reference back to the conversations he's had with the media and how he talked about it. So he was asked at one point by, I believe it was the Wall Street Journal, what his single worst rideshare experience was. Now that's important, rideshare experience. So he did say that he had some rude customers and people who just pretended like he didn't even exist. But interestingly, Kim, he defaulted to a delivery, not a rideshare experience. When he was specifically asked about rideshare, he started talking about delivery. So he was asked about, kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as far as the bad and the ugly, he talked about not being able to find apartments in like large complexes and stuff. And, that resonates, right? Like, I think all drivers face that at some point, or another. But curiously, he also talked about getting tip baited multiple times. Multiple times. Now, he only did this for 2 or 3 months, right? And I can't speak for you or anybody else, but the last time I got tip baited, I got pissed off and I sat down and I actually figured this out, like how many orders I've done and how many times I've gotten tip baited. And it works out to be about 1 out of every 200 deliveries that I do, roughly, that I get tip baited on. So I just can't believe that the CEO of a company as large as Uber was out there doing thousands of deliveries where he could get tip baited several times. That's just my perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, I honestly, I can probably count on one hand how many times I've been tip baited. I think we talk about it because it's the worst feeling ever whenever it happens. And like, what do you do as soon as it happens? Like, it comes out of your mouth, especially if you have a YouTube page, and you go, "Can you believe?" And like, you're outraged because other drivers go through that. So
Mhm.
I mean, I can understand once he got tip baited. Okay, it happens to the best
Yeah.
of us. Sometimes it doesn't happen to any of us, and yay, hopefully it never happens to you as a driver. But yeah, I feel like he was playing on the heartstrings a little bit on that one.
So I mean, when I get tip baited, something very different comes out of my mouth. It's a bunch of beep 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 beep, beep, and I never forget where they live. So and I have never once gotten tip baited for a valid reason, Kim. Not once for anything that was either my fault or within my control. So
No,
so
the worst one I've ever had was I did a grocery shop for Uber Eats, and it was a $42 shop, and I was so excited because it was $42,
mhm,
and it was only 24 items. So for me, $42, 24 items, it wasn't half bad. The problem is
yeah,
the person was getting a whole bunch of like stuff that you've never heard of in a grocery store ever, and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, a
just like
lot of it
the
was
weirdest shit they could possibly think
the
of.
weirdest stuff. I mean, granted, a lot of it was like gluten-free stuff, which is fine because I actually have a gluten-free section in my supermarket, but
You
it
guys are
was like,
fancy.
yeah, it's actually really nice because you just go to the section, it's gluten-free, and you're like, okay, that's that, that's that, that's that.
Mhm,
And they also have what I call the meatless section. It's for vegans and vegetarians, and
yeah,
that's in like the meat section. So they make it easy, but like the stuff was like, what the heck is that? Like,
yeah.
it was a hard shot to do, and got it done. I actually only substituted one item. I was so proud of myself for finding every single thing, and I'm like, this is awesome. And I knew it was exactly $8. And if you don't know Uber Eats, you can get bigger tips off, if it's over $8. So I'm like, oh, maybe this is even a bigger tip. Hour
Yeah.
later, nope. Took
Nothing.
away the took away the tip. I was
Yeah.
so mad. I was so mad. Actually, I think I called you that day, and I'm like, "I'm so mad."
So Uber doing this was part of something called Project Boomerang. And essentially, they were sending Dara undercover as Dave K because they wanted to figure out why recruitment rates amongst drivers was like slowly dwindling. So they passed this off to the media like they were trying to make this a better experience for drivers. But in being honest about why they were doing it, to me, it invalidated any progress that they were bragging about. So they did this during the lockdowns, but I find it curious that they're just now starting to talk to the media about this. So one of the things, the one thing that I do have to give them credit for, Kim, is they now the rideshare people are going to strongly disagree with me on this one, but for the delivery people, this was a good thing. So they brought upfront pricing. And so you remember back in the Uber Eats days when you used to have to guess, right? You saw base pay and mileage, and then you had to guess if you were going to get shafted or if that person tipped. So uh, when they changed that, it was a game changer, right? Like I remember delivering to one of my neighbors, and they didn't tip. And I'm just like, every time I drove past that person's place for months, just be flipping them off, right? Like, you screwed your neighbor. Thank you. So, and and not in the fun way. So the tip baiting thing, I want to really dive heavy into that. So if they're actually out there trying to make an effort to make the platform a better place for drivers, and Dave K experienced tip baiting as frequently as he claims to have, then why is that still a thing?
I don't know. It's been said for years. I know we're talking probably 2 years, 3 years now. I can't tell you how many rumors surfaced that, Uber Eats was going to make it better for the drivers, and they were going to
Mhm.
take away tip baiting, and we haven't seen it yet. So
Yeah.
I, fe- I just don't understand, to be honest with you. And that this isn't just even Uber. This is even Spark. It's Instacart. Like,
Yeah.
why does in today's world, like, why does something like that even exist? And why do we give the customers power
Mhm.
to make that happen just by a click of a button? I
It's
understand. Sorry, go ahead.
it's ass backwards.
Yeah.
You show me another line of work where you agree on a price ahead of time, you complete the job, and then you get screwed.
Yeah. What I find amusing, and, one of, at least in my opinion, one of the highlights when we went to Denver was talking to Senator Priola. And, I don't think a lot of people understand what tip baiting really is, because when we were talking to him, it's like, I don't know about you, but like a light bulb went
Yeah,
off in
it
his head.
like
And he's
yeah,
just like, and then he
he got
this
disgusted.
exist, like, he got disgusted, and he's like,
Yeah.
this exists? How is this even, like, he just like went, I don't want to say on a tirade because that's not the right word to use, but he was just dumbfounded
Yeah.
that companies can do this to drivers.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my sentiment. Like, how do companies allow this to exist in today's world is beyond me.
Right. So, and it's honestly, in my opinion, it's to keep the wrong kind of customer happy. They want a huge customer base, whether it's good for the business or not. Right. They want to be able to show their shareholders, look, we got an 8% growth in customers this quarter over last quarter. Right. They're targeting the wrong people, though, in my opinion, Kim. They need to be going for the customers that don't cost them money in the long run. Because when that happens, when I get tip baited, I get my money. I don't play that game. I've done this long enough that I know how to get my money back. And by God, I do every time. I don't care if it's $1 and I don't care if it's $20. I am going to get mine.
I don't blame you. It's
Yeah.
just honestly, it's infuriating. And if it was as infuriating as Dara was saying it was, then he would have done something about it already. To me, that's
So,
not top of the priority list of
yeah.
things in Uber.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not faulting the guy for being successful because he's clearly put in the work to be
Yeah.
where he is. So I want to make that very clear. However, he doesn't have the same skin in the game that we do. He was driving not because he needed to, but because he made a decision to, as the head of the company, to try to boost their retention rates or whatever. He gets tip baited. That's quite literally a drop in the bucket for him. He is not going to notice that. That is not going to affect his decisions moving forward and his lifestyle in any way, shape, or form, right? However, if somebody like you or me gets tip baited, that's a whole nother order that we now have to do. 2 orders, right? That cuts into our day. It takes time away from our families. We're pissed off. Like it's soul sucking.
Yeah.
But Dara is going to go home to his multi-million-dollar home and his CEO status at his job and be just fine financially. But that's not necessarily the case for the majority of drivers. Hell, Pew Research said that it's something like 80-something% of drivers are limited part-time. And out of the people who drive, they said that 2/3 of drivers say that their side hustle is either very important or essential for them to meet their basic human needs. So when you have somebody playing with your money like that, you want to talk about a safety issue, you tip bait somebody out of $20 and you get the wrong driver on the wrong day, and you tell me that's not a safety issue. Uber, Instacart, and Spark really need to step their game up.
Yeah, I completely, I feel like I've been an advocate for it forever. You've been an advocate for it forever, that, it just shouldn't exist. And yes, if you want to have that feature in there for disgruntled, like real disgruntled customers who like really get legitimate concerns. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but DoorDash, you actually have to call
support
to somebody, like explain the situation. They don't just make it easy that you can go into an app and say, remove, and it's done. Like, I can't believe I'm saying that, but DoorDash actually kind of does it right when you think about it for disgruntled customers.
Yes, and that's been something that I have given them a lot of props on. However, over the last 4 to 6 months, they updated their website under the tipping section, and they do explicitly state on their website now that you can remove the tip, but you got to contact support. So I wish that they would have like left that out. But I am of the opinion that if your experience was truly bad enough to warrant removing the tip from a driver, you probably just deserve a full refund. But we know, as well as everybody who's watching us right now, that probably 95% of the time that we get tip baited, that tip was never ours to begin with. They never had any intention of giving that driver that tip. Yeah. They just wanted prompt service without having to pay for it.
You know, we reference a lot of times, restaurants and waitresses, just because I feel like that's the closest profession to a little bit of what we do, and we're close knit with restaurants. And if you really think about it, if a waitress gives horrible service, like they had, like as a customer, you had the worst service ever, but you, out of your kindness of your heart, you're not going to shaft the waitress. So you do the bare minimum. I'm making this up, as a 15% tip. But the next day, it doesn't feel right. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to call the restaurant, speak to the manager, and tell them exactly what's going on. Do you think that registered restaurant manager is going to go back to the waitress and say, hey, give me back that 15% tip you got? Like, that's never
probably not
happen. But at the same time, that's kind of what drivers go through. If you think about it, they're like, no, I'm just going to take it away. I don't care. I gave it to you, but no, psych, sorry.
I want to wrap this section up with a question to you in the chat. Or if you're watching us on the replay, feel free to leave it in the comments as well, please. Do you think that Dara or, Dave K got the actual driver experience in the amount of time he was out doing this?
No.
Neither do I.
Bottom line, no.
I think that, it's like you said, you can go months without something going sideways, right? But then when it does, you're like, I don't know what to do. But as you kind of gain some experience, right, you learn, even though you haven't ran into this exact problem, you kind of just know how to deal with things after a while. So no, I don't think he got the real driver experience. I would, however, be curious to see the orders he took and which ones he declined, or if he was just accepting everything.
Yeah, that would be interesting on itself. But to me, if any of these CEOs or any executives, in my opinion, want to get a true driver experience, I feel like they should do a ride along with a driver that's experienced, whether it's full-time, part-time, 1,000 deliveries, 2,000 deliveries, 10,000 deliveries. Like, I feel like they need to be in a car with somebody who lives and breathes it if they want the true experience of what drivers are going through, which is what the article is saying that they wanted out of it. I just don't think that they got it by doing just a couple of deliveries.
I got one more thought here. And I'm going to try to make this brief because I know we're kind of running over on this subject, but I haven't always look, I'm a single parent, right? I don't want anybody's sympathy about it, right? I'm not trying to get anybody's help or anybody's sympathy. All right. But factually speaking, I am a single parent in an expensive city. There have been times where I have been so close to the wire with paying rent and buying groceries at the beginning of the month that I knew the last week and a half to the cent how much I had to earn when I was out driving to make ends meet. So when you get tip baited, it really does throw a wrench and stuff like that. And fortunately things have improved drastically. But, I'm also, I've also developed multiple streams of income that other drivers may not have. So something legitimately needs to be done about this, not just some dance and pony show or whatever the saying is. Like, actually fix this and respect your driver's time and do not let them get exploited. Like, we're the ones doing the work.
Agreed.
Rant.
Rant number one.
Oh yeah, but why don't we go ahead and play Guess the Hidden Tip, and then we can get into rant number 2. All right. So everybody in the chat and in the replay, if you would indulge us. So this is a Chipotle catering order on DoorDash, and it originally showed them $37.12. Odd number, I know, going 13 miles. So was the hidden tip A, 15 cents, B, $23.95, or C, $268.77?
I feel like we need the Jeopardy song right now.
The Jeopardy song would be good. Kim, I am not in the large order program, and I have actually never gotten a Chipotle catering order. So I feel like this is going to kind of be more your wheelhouse than mine. So why don't you kind of talk about this? And I know we both know the answer to this, but
we do. That's why I'm like, okay, how do we talk around this without completely giving the answer away? But you said that the 12 cents is weird. So when a lot of times with large orders and catering orders, if it is over like $100 order, it actually is a percentage of the order that you get as a tip, not like $10, $5 is what you're used to like smaller DoorDash orders. So say it's $100 worth of food, the customer suggested tip on the bottom, it's going to start, I believe it starts at 15%. Don't quote me on that, but I think it starts at 15%, 20%, 25%. Those are like the three that they offer. So it's based off of the percentage of your order, not off of like $2, $5. So that's where the strange dollar amount comes from.
I see. My assumption was that it was placed directly through Chipotle and then dispatched. So it could have been. If you had gotten this offer, what are you looking for specifically as somebody who is LOP?
To me, this is actually, I would have taken this $37 for 13 miles. I would have taken this as a regular order regardless. Yeah. And when you actually, they don't have the actual offer screen itself, but normally with Chipotle, it actually comes up Chipotle catering and it says red bag required. So you actually know on the offer screen. The thing you have to really look out for is on catering orders, the base pay is $8, not the $2. In my area is $2.75. It's always $8. If you ever see a catering order for $8, decline that so fast your head spins, because that means that the customer did not tip.
Man, what a dirty little trick to play.
Yeah.
All right, Kim. So how much was it? So the options were 15 cents, the hidden tip specifically, 15 cents, $23.95, or $268.77. Why don't we go ahead and
interesting. I wish we had like something to input everybody's answers to see what the percentage is before like we do the big reveal. So the big reveal is dun dun dun. $268.77.
I'm curious where that was going and how many items were ordered. So, all right, look, I'm gonna do a small tirade, Kim, just a small one this time, because we've got something else that's gonna warrant a big tirade. So, just a little tirade. The driver should just know how much they're gonna get paid. Like, seriously, if you're doing the work, just tell us. Don't make us guess, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm of the opinion that it leads to a bad customer experience. Somebody's like, I don't want to drive 13 miles, right? Like maybe they're like, well, I'm kind of supposed to meet up with friends, and like that's going to kind of cut it close. But now if they knew that they were going to get paid 200 and something freaking bucks, they're like, yeah, fuck my friends, they can wait, right? And you go and you do the order, and you call them on the way back, hey, I'm just running a little behind, and apologize real nice, and everybody's hunky dory. So transparency should not be something that we need to fight for. It should be a given. If we do a job, we have the right to know exactly where we're going to be and how much we're going to get paid. Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable.
I agree in the transparency department. I don't know, unless something drastically happens, if we'll ever see it in the next couple of years. And like I said, unless something drastically changes, I will say that this order was awesome for whoever got this order, because
Yeah.
that would be like, I'm going home, bye everyone. Like my day would have just been over,
Deuces.
and I'm like, peace out, like, let's
Yeah.
go home. So this had to have made somebody's day. The
Oh, of
largest
course.
order I believe I've ever gotten is $120. So, it's always like, I don't like, it's like when you get one, you're like, score, and you're like,
Yeah.
that's the way I felt. I got a big order. I'm like, I'm going home. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. I used to do okay on Grubhub orders, but now, of course, we all know that's not a thing anymore. But I think the best I did was I got a $69 order once on Grubhub, and then I got a $72 order once on Uber Eats.
Nice.
And actually, I kind of felt bad about the Uber Eats one, because I was doing a challenge with a friend of mine who's was also making videos in our niche at the same time, and he was wiping the floor with me in like a ride along challenge, and I got this like crazy Uber Eats order that had a massive hidden tip, and as a result of that one order, it's like game over. So I legitimately felt bad. I got paid, but I felt bad about it.
So I'm just going to throw it out to the chat. So the chat right now, while we're going to wrap up this section, let us know what is the biggest order, and it can be on any platform.
Good question.
It could be DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. Let us know what is the biggest order you've ever gotten on any platform. I would be curious on, what everybody's biggest order was. But yeah, it's always fun.
I'm actually kind of curious to hear that too.
Yeah.
So for our next segment, we are going to be talking about the Chris and Sergio interview on Show Me the Money Club with Ali Kashani. So Ali Kashani, first of all, I should say Dr. Kashani. He is the CEO of Serve Robotics. This is the company who has partnered with Uber Eats to do those like beady-eyed little robot bastards that are delivering the food. So I am not particularly a fan of the idea, but we're going to play some clips. Kim, why don't you like completely take us down while we do this?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's not going to be a lot of screen real estate. So
before I do this, though, Sergio texted me last night and said, "Do your best." So Sergio, hopefully we do you justice, my friends, and we will do our best for you.
I chose clips where he asked good questions.
Okay.
So we'll see if I get a pissed off phone call from Sergio, I'll report back.
Why don't you
go ahead and take us back?
On the sidewalk.
Let me rewind it a little bit.
Okay.
We're a little delayed, so bear with me. Okay, we ready?
I'm ready. Go ahead and pull us down.
Oh, I'm gonna take them. Okay.
Tell us a little bit about the robot itself, the mechanics, like is it full autonomous? Is it driven by so-called pilots like other companies have at the moment? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it looks like a little shopping cart with eyes and personality, like shopping cart 2.0. It operates on a sidewalk. It moves at about like 3 miles an hour on average. And the job is to do some of the short distance deliveries, usually the ones where there's less money to be made. And the idea here is that when you actually look at, deliveries in the entire United States, which is a fairly sparse country, 90% of the times they're moving in cars. So we're moving 2-pound burritos in a 2-ton car. And that became kind of our mantra. That's the problem we want to solve. We want to bring some level of efficiency to this equation, because when you're using cars, you're introducing, emissions, you're introducing costs, you're introducing safety issues. 1.5 million people die in car accidents every year. Half the time that happens at intersections, exactly the kind of environments we are operating in. So there's a lot of reasons to bring some efficiency to last mile transportation. These robots are basically designed for that, because half the time deliveries are less than 2 miles. Even in the country like the US, in Asia, Europe, it's even shorter.
All right. So right off the bat, he talks about emissions. That's not invalid, but let's, you know what? The homework for the chat. why don't you look up the process of making batteries, and why don't you see how good that is for the planet? Because that's a whole nother thing that he's not talking about there. Yeah, no, the process of making batteries is horrible. Like the pollutants and stuff for actually creating batteries is probably just as bad as cars with emissions. Did you know that?
Yeah. So I had what I found about this part of the interview, and yes, I watched the entire thing. He says that basically they're designed to prevent drivers from getting into accidents, and it's going to reduce accidents because less drivers are going to be doing deliveries, which he contradicted in another clip. Hopefully we have it here today. But anyway, what I find funny, I'm like, so you're reducing accidents of drivers, but your bots are getting run over by trains. They're getting kicked by people. You're got run over by a car. If you just go onto TikTok and literally just in the search button do like Uber Eats bots or anything like that, man, there are some crazy videos out there of bots not working properly, to say the least.
There's a couple things I want to pick on here. So we showed the clip of the robot going through the crime scene a few months back. And interestingly, so I didn't choose that clip, but I found it interesting and I wanted to talk about it for a minute. So the robot, up until the police tape, had been operating autonomously. And then it ran into the police tape and it didn't know what to do, right? Because it's not a person with reason and thinking. And so what did they do? They took control of it manually and made the decision to run it through the police tape. So that was not the robot piloting itself when it did that. That was one of their people running it through an active crime scene. So, I mean, Kim, I can't speak for you, but go ahead.
And say, can you imagine? And I know we've talked about this before, and I know we've gone through this on this show, but I just keep thinking about, can you imagine the cops at the crime scene watching this robot? And can you imagine if, as a cop, you found out later that it didn't have a mind of its own, that someone actually programmed it to go through the crime scene? I would be mad as you know what.
Oh, yeah. So I want to, there's one thing in particular here that I want to pick on this clip. And he said that these exist for orders where there's less money to be made for the driver. Are you buying that, Kim?
No.
Let us know in the chat if you're buying
Not at
that.
all.
So okay. Like in theory, it's a good idea, right? A customer doesn't tip, it's sure, right? Like I don't want to go out and make $3 delivering to somebody who has a higher probability of reporting that they didn't get the order when they did because they didn't respect my time enough to tip to begin with. Tirade done. But I am not convinced that these things are going to only be doing the low or no tip orders that nobody wants. We have both seen screenshots of orders from customers who got one of these robots despite tipping reasonably, presumably reasonably. We don't know the distance, but according to this guy, these things are only going 2 to 3 miles at most. So, I mean, to me, that's kind of a contradiction there too. And of course, I can't pretend like we know what's in their contract with Uber, but ultimately, Uber is going to use these to maximize their profits, not to make sure we're not getting garbage orders.
Agreed.
Let's play.
I just don't. I think it's honestly, I feel like it's a scapegoat to say we made these bots to take all these low profit orders, but will we as us as drivers, we will never know that because let's face it, they're not transparent. There's no company out there that's going to be completely transparent with the public or its drivers. So they can say that, but do we actually believe it? I don't believe that whatsoever because they're all about profits and driving as many orders to get delivered as humanly possible, including Botwit, and they're going to do everything that they possibly can.
So these things move on average at 3 miles an hour, Kim. 3 miles an hour. All right. These are typically in downtown sort of metropolitan areas where it's going to be mainly apartments. These things cannot climb stairs. They can't go in the elevator. They can't get buzzed into buildings. They can't even go inside restaurants in most cases. How are they supposed to do this? So I look, we're going to get to a clip. We're going to get to a clip in a minute where Sergio asks him if this is like doomsday for drivers. We're going to get to that in a minute. We'll comment more about that then. But I just from a the practicality or whatever of these things actually taking a dent out of our business, I just don't really see it. Maybe in 20 years, but not today. I don't know. Unless you have another thought, why don't we play the next clip? I think we've got 3 total.
Yep.
In Hollywood, I would hate to park. I would hate, God knows how many tickets I would get. Then I would have, there are a lot of apartments. I have to find parking again for a $3 order, right? It's not worth it. Well, what happens? You decline. So I'm not sure that the fear is legitimate that all the jobs are going to be lost to delivery robots. What do you say about that?
See, I think it's gonna there's gonna be more deliveries as a result of this, because right now, as you all know, the cost of delivery is pretty high. I think there was a McKinsey report saying it's about $8. There's more costs that you can add on top of that, things like mistakes and acquisition of drivers and all that. It actually can add up to even $10 per delivery. So it's pretty expensive. If you bring that cost down, more people are going to place orders. And when more people place orders, you're going to have more people delivering those orders. So I actually see, just like, again, banking, where when ATMs brought the cost down, more people did banking and more tellers had to be hired. The same thing is going to happen here. Robots are going to bring the cost down, more deliveries are going to be needed, and more people are going to be hired. And remember, when it cost us $10 to deliver something locally, but it cost us $2 to deliver something from China, it's upside down. If we bring that local cost down, there's going to be more commerce activity. There's going to be more shops that need more people to hire more people. And of course, robots need people to work too. So we are going to boost local economies. We are going to create all sorts of new jobs and increase the number of jobs for drivers and others. I'm very bullish on this, because history has told us repeatedly that when we brought this kind of technologies to market, it's created more jobs, not less.
So, all right. China also happens to have one of the lowest GDPs per capita. Why don't we talk about that? Do you want to make $3 an hour, $2 an hour? Because I sure don't.
Honestly, I just don't buy it, because you can build all the robots in the world. That's going to bring the cost of delivery down. But you also need people to buy from Uber Eats in order to get the demand. So you can't control how many people are actually ordering into the Uber Eats app. That's going to drive the demand of Uber Eats to all of our areas. So I feel like that part of the equation of what he's talking about is missing, because that's a big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, so props to Sergio for asking a good question. He did not let this guy off the hook. Sergio asks hard questions, good questions. Hell, he did it to me when we were critiquing to us, I guess, when we were critiquing the Tony interview, and I was like, "What the hell, Serge?" Like I wasn't expecting it, So, and it kind of took me a minute to get my bearings. So, shout out to Sergio for always asking the tough questions.
Yeah, I think that day was just so funny, because he didn't tell any of us he was going to do that. And then he just went guns a-blazing, and we're like,
I know. I'm
Sergio,
like, settle down, cowboy. So I think what's more likely, I don't think that necessarily they're going to lay off with bringing on new drivers. I don't see that happening. I think what's more likely is that we'll see more and more cities getting the Satan bot, and they're still going to onboard new drivers, but for those like downtown metro areas that are like maybe the apartments are on the first floor or something, we might see more competition for the robots and stuff. But sorry, I got shit flying in the background apparently. But those things aren't going to go on the freeway, right? They're not going to go down a main road. It's just not going to happen. And I personally avoid downtown areas like the plague anyway, unless I'm getting paid out the wazoo to be there. So it's just not worth it for me with parking costs and traffic and, finding the right building. I don't know. So I don't really see this being, do I like the idea of the robot? No, I don't. Because there is some driver somewhere who is willing to take that low dollar order, maybe to their detriment. But now we might see a robot coming in and doing it instead. But at least in my market, Kim, that would.
Yeah, my market.
They might get.
Yeah, my market is tough. I pick up in a downtown area, not a metro area, just a downtown area that is very high end. It's on the water. It is lots of restaurants, and the parking is ridiculous. But the places we deliver to, it is so spread out that there's no way that there's a couple of areas that can go 1 mile, 2 miles, but not very many. My area is just way too spread out. A lot of my deliveries are 4 miles, 5 miles. Some of the bigger ones can be 10 miles based off of how, where it's going to, based off of my area. So, I see it possibly being good in some metro areas, to your point, that you don't want to go into some of these areas because of parking. And that's actually where it might be useful for a lot of drivers. So it alleviates the headaches of getting those orders.
Sure. So I don't think we have a clip of this. He went on to make the claim that they have a 99.9% success rate with their deliveries, despite. I don't buy it either, but despite, despite people, tipping these things over, getting run over by trains, admittedly, right? Like, we're probably only seeing the videos where something goes completely sideways. But I don't buy that something without a brain and the inability to reason can deliver something at a higher success rate than we can. So out of my thousands of deliveries, I have only had one order where I got to keep the food. And that was completely the customer's fault, not mine. So, that's thousands and thousands of deliveries that I've done where I've only had one that I couldn't complete. How can something without a brain compete with that?
You got me. And I also think, when we come to food delivery, I think a lot of times we lose sight that we are in the customer service industry, and customers do somewhat like that interaction. If they're a handed to me customer, they really do like, in my opinion, sometimes the connection and the interaction with the drivers.
Yeah. And what's funny though, is when I see that on the app, I'm like, fuck. Like, I just want to drop the order off and go. Like, I look at myself as being in the logistics business with, a small side of customer service.
I guess because I come from, I have 20 something plus years. I won't go into how many years because it'll age me, but I have 20 plus years of being in customer service. So to me, everything is customer service. So whether I'm dropping it off, handing it to them, everything to me is customer service, because they're paying for a service. They're tipping us, right? We're giving them a service that they're actually paying us for. So there is a level of customer service that robots aren't going to give you any kind of interaction whatsoever.
Yeah. So now I do see one possible benefit to these things. If they want to implement these in areas that are known to be, have high crime rates or something like that, in late into the night or something like that, if your option is a driver who is driving a reasonably new car and bringing a smartphone with them, I don't see a problem with sending the robot instead, because like you really can't rob a robot. I mean, you can kick it over and like bring it into your apartment, but they all have GPS. So I mean, how really smart is that? Yeah. So I think in cases like that, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But what I would like to see is Uber come out with a statement saying 100% of the time that we will utilize these are for deliveries that we could foresee a safety issue for the driver, or if the customer didn't tip.
Yeah, but that means they would have to be transparent, and they're not going to do that.
Of course. I mean, it's a wish list. I didn't say it was a realistic wish list.
Along with tip baiting going away, right?
Yeah, right. So we had one more clip, but I think in the interest of time, we should probably move on. So
we got it.
Yeah, let's talk about DoorDash violating a local law and getting themselves fined. I believe it was $1.6 million.
Oof.
So this happened here in my home state of Washington. So DoorDash will pay $1.6 million to drivers after a city investigation found the company failed to implement the city's required sick and safe time policy. The company violated the city's requirements for the second time and failed to establish a system for workers to request to use paid time, to provide timely compensation to some workers for use of the time, and to provide workers with monthly notice of their balances. Thoughts on that so far, Kim?
I think it was, honestly, I think 1.6 million is a drop on the bucket for them. I think they knew what they were doing, to be honest with you. And they're like, if we get fined $1 million, so what? We'll just pay it and still do what we want to do because we don't agree with it to begin with.
So it's not just DoorDash that has not really moved in the right direction with this. I was talking to a rideshare driver a few weeks back, I don't know, a month back, something like that. It doesn't matter. I was talking to a rideshare driver, and he told me that he had gotten sick or something and had to take like 2 weeks off and didn't know that that was an option for him. Oh. So these companies are not only not implementing the requirements for this like paid sick leave or whatever, but they're not even informing drivers that they have that. So, I go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was going to say, I feel like we have an advantage in the YouTube community, YouTube world, because we're so connected with the community. We know what's going on and we understand. I know a lot more now than I did years ago about what's happening in your state, in California, in all these other cities that are starting to implement some form of legislation. But if I didn't have this YouTube community that we talk about this regularly as a driver, would I even know what's going on in my own state? Probably not. And these companies aren't going and raising a red flag. Hey, look at me. Look at all the stuff that comes with working for our company. They're not going to do that because that means that they're going to have to pay you money.
And that is the one reason right there that, sorry, I'm kind of taking what you're saying and maybe twisting it and like bastardizing it. But that's the one reason that I never support strikes in the gig economy, is because so few people actually consume content or actually know what's going on, that you can organize a strike until the cows come home, and you'd be lucky if 1% of the drivers in your city knew about it. It's not even going to make a dent. So, I think in your case, it's probably cheaper for, like you were talking about, it's probably cheaper for them to just ignore the legislation and pay the fines as they come up.
Yeah.
So it's dirty, but it's probably a business choice for them. Like, I remember,
it's definitely a business strategy. Would you rather, and I don't know this, I am making this up off the top of my head, so don't take this that I know what I'm talking about, but would you rather, in the long run, making this up, pay drivers in a whole $2 million when the fine for the city is like $1.6 million? You're actually saving yourself if they actually catch what you're trying to do.
So the Seattle model is actually quite good for drivers. When I get a little nervous when the city and state governments start stepping in, especially the federal government. That's a whole other subject. I get kind of nervous when they start stepping in and trying to regulate things, because so often they don't actually know what we're doing and what we need. But the Seattle model has seemed to work very well for drivers, right? It's struck that balance between fair and reasonable, and where the customers are still, ordering Ubers and delivery and stuff like that. So I remember I had talked about this on the show a few weeks back. Seattle was trying to impose and this is probably a year or so back, they were trying to impose a fee cap on the delivery apps. And so DoorDash's response to that was to blast drivers with these emails, basically fear-mongering us about how it's going to eat into our earnings and nobody's going to order anymore, and this is going to be the death of DoorDash and boo-hoo-hoo. So I even got one of those emails, Kim, and I don't even drive in Seattle. I have never driven in Seattle. But yet I am getting emails saying, hey, harass Seattle City Council and tell them don't do this. Like that's bullshit. I mean, if they want to operate in a jurisdiction that has a law, they need to follow the law. They cannot pick and choose. So I think what Seattle needs to do is next time, double the fine. Next time, double that fine. So let's just say it was $1 million instead of 1.6 for easy math for me. First fine them 1 million. Second fine them 2 million. Third fine, 4 million, so on and so forth. And keep that going.
I don't see why I would see why not, but it kind of made me think there for a little bit. Not this past time with New York City going through what they just went through with the pay increases as for their drivers, but a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, when they were going through, New York City was trying to make sure that drivers can use the bathrooms, and there were a couple of other things that they were putting into place. I actually got an email, even though I'm probably 50, 60 miles away from New York City, I was getting those emails as well in New Jersey. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to New York City anytime soon to be driving, but thanks for the offer.
Yeah. So take this with a grain of salt, because I haven't done my research on this yet, but I know that DoorDash also just got fined for violating spam laws. So that's a whole separate story. So now I'm going to have to delve into that. And, I saw that article come up. I'm like, I don't want to cover that. But now that we're talking about it, I'm like, actually kind of curious. So anyway, I would love to see Seattle get real aggressive with them and actually make them implement this. Make it hurt. Make it actually take a dent out of their business for violating the law, because it's the drivers who are getting screwed here. Yeah. So, speaking of DoorDash, we would love some audience participation on this one. Are you guys taking this order $113.50 plus? So total will be higher. Big Lots. Okay. Big Lots. Red card order. 205 items going 10 miles. Kim, we need to have a conversation. Let us know in the chat if you're taking that or not. Kim, why don't you start? Because this is the one that I'm really going to go on a tirade about.
I would take this in a heartbeat. It's $113. So I look at orders probably a little differently. I don't just look at dollars and miles. Yeah, the items, that's a ridiculous amount of items. But I look at the time that it's going to take me. So even if it took me 3 hours, that would be more than $30. It would be close to $40, close to $40 an hour in order to complete this order. To me, it's well worth the time invested in doing this. I would totally do it.
I'm not taking that. No way in hell am I taking that.
Crazy? That's $113.
Yes, I am probably crazy, but this is ridiculous, Kim. Big Lots is the poor person's version of Costco. Those items are typically large, right? No. My car, sometimes they are. Yeah. They have furniture and shit. I'm not trying to strap a couch.
But I don't think in 205 items there's going to be furniture. And if so, then
you never know.
Why wouldn't you take it, look at the items, and then if you don't see what you like, then just unasssign it for $113? $13.
Okay, well, it's in the name. Big lots, not small lots. Okay, first of all, it's big lots. So, and I've only been in there once, I think, ever, and it was over a decade ago. But first of all, at least the one that I was in, the store was not organized. It was kind of dirty, right? 205 items in a store like that. Like, I am not about to traipse up and down those aisles. But here's my real problem with this one, Kim. You don't know how much you're going to make. And I'm, maybe
$113.
Well, it's not $113. That's the thing. It's not. And for me, if I'm doing a shop and pay, I like to see $2 an item. Maybe I'm a little bougie, but that's typically what it takes to get me into. Yes.
So you're looking for this to be $400?
If I am going to Big Lots to shop for 205 items, you bet your ass I am.
Okay, let me know how that works out for you.
Well, it's not going to, because we didn't get the transparency. Now, if this were closer to $300 or $400, then that's a different story. I would be all over that. But we can't see, at least on iPhones. I think that there's a way you can do it on Android, but you can't see the items that they ordered, like before you accept the offer. So I don't want to show up only to find out that I have to unassign the order and not get paid. So I'm out the time to drive to the store and then to drive back to wherever I was.
Did you get it? You can look at the order, see what's on it, and not even drive.
Okay. That's fair. But what if they're out of a bunch of shit too?
Then you do a substitution. Okay, I'm going to play it. What happens if one item is like 20 items of cat food per each flavor?
What do you want from me here?
Like, it would be a quick shop.
Yeah, but how many people are doing that? I mean, is it going to the SPCA or something? Like, what the hell? But again, I mean,
crazy cat food shops before. So
my thing is, I don't know, Kim. There's some orders that are more headache than they're worth, and that to me looks like one of those orders. 205 items for $113. I'm sorry. I would rather take my chances with the next food order that's coming my way.
Okay.
There is no way in hell I am touching that. Now, again, if they just had the decency of being transparent and letting us know how much we were actually going to earn, and it was closer to 300 or even 400, which I'm sure it wasn't, but humor me. But no, humor me. Like, then yeah, I probably would risk it and roll the dice and say, okay, like, even if this takes me all day, it's worth it. The payout is worth the frustration at that point. But to me, I look at that and there's no way in hell $113 is worth the frustration that I am inevitably going to run into with that order.
Okay, let me ask you a question. How long do you think it would take to shop 205 items?
Me?
Yeah.
At a place like that I've never stepped foot in?
Okay, forget
4
Big
hours.
Lots. I said 4 hours? No way.
Yeah, it'd probably take me 4 hours, Kim. I'm not a fast shopper. I am not a fast shopper. I never claimed to be.
For me, 205 items would probably take me about, I'm going to guess, 2 to 2.5 hours. So if you look at it from a time standpoint, if it takes me 2.5 hours to complete, and that's on a high end, and it takes me, 10 miles, maybe 20 minutes to deliver. So you're talking 3 hours. That's what I'm saying. You talk 3 hours into $120. That's like $40 an hour.
And again,
your afternoon would be done. If it's an afternoon order, your afternoon would be done.
Yeah, that's fine and well. But again, I really stand by there's some things that are not worth, like, the hassle is not worth the money. And that to me, it looks like one of those orders. So, I mean, that's where I got to stand. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I am definitely right.
Oh, I'm saying you're wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
So, props to the adventurous shopper who inevitably took that. I hope it paid them out the wazoo, but we don't know.
But even if you don't know at $113, it's $113.
No, I've gotten no. Okay. Admittedly, this probably wasn't right of me, but I've been in the middle of a shop and pay on a couple of occasions and just had it go really sideways. And I'm like, okay, the money is no longer worth the frustration. So I've unassigned it mid shop and walked out. And I could see that being a very strong possibility for that freaking order.
Just shake my head.
You know what? I mean,
I'm just gonna
this
keep
is
saying
another
$115.
this is another example of DoorDash trying to get their foot in as many markets as they possibly can, or sectors as they possibly can, right? I mean, freaking package delivery, package return, grocery shopping, like auto parts. Like, come on, like anything you could possibly think of. The only thing that we don't do currently is like, no, you know what? Never mind. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. Just think of something very adult, okay? And that was the direction it was going in. So I don't want to wake up to that email tomorrow. So, all right, Kim, I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree. And I think we're going to have to move on. But I do think after reading this email that DoorDash thinks we're idiots.
I agree with you.
Like, come on. You know what? Are you able to read that off or do you need me to?
Let me just pull it up and I will read it off because the screen's too small. Hold on.
So I lovingly call this one WTF is this.
Sorry, bear with me. I was not prepared.
I mean, if you need me to, I can zoom in a little bit.
I just need to pull it up if you bear with me. Okay. So it says, okay. First one, it's called Delivering Deep Dish Pizza. Deep dish pizza restaurants in your area require time-sensitive special handling. To ensure a good delivery experience, it's important that the deep dish pizzas remain flat and secure at all times. We recommend securing the pizza on a flat surface while driving, i.e. the floor or in the trunk. And then it says, hand order to customer. Unless stated otherwise, please be sure to keep the pizza flat when handling it to the customer in time-sensitive manner. So they can enjoy it while it's hot. Not delivering the pizza flat may impact the order quality and taste, which could result in poor customer experience and low Dasher ratings.
Okay, so first of all, I don't care if you shake that thing. It is not going to affect the taste of the pizza. Like, okay, Kim, I got my own conspiracy theory about this. All right. Here is what probably happened in my mind. You had some DoorDash executive order some deep dish pizza, from some restaurant, and a driver showed up and like had the thing on its side and handed it to him, and it pissed them off. And they're like, we're going to send an email. Like, it's common sense, right? Like, we've all seen the pictures of the pizza, up against, like laying against the wall or something, but how often does that really happen? Like, we weren't born yesterday, people. Come on. This is insulting. This is an insult to our intelligence as drivers.
I feel like this goes like right up there with your picture is tilted and they try to teach drivers how to take pictures, or your picture is too dark, take it again. Like, I just feel like sometimes DoorDash treats its drivers like we're complete morons. Granted, this has to be is this a Midwest West Coast thing? Because in like the East Coast, we don't do deep dish. So I don't think this would be prevalent to New Jersey, but I still think they think we're idiots.
Yeah, they think we're idiots. So, I mean, come on now. Like, it's going to change the taste. Really? Really? Tell me how. Please explain this to me like I'm a toddler. You guys are clearly good at that. So please tell me like a toddler how it's going to change the taste.
Wouldn't it be funny if they bullet pointed why the taste would differ?
Oh my God. You know what would have made my day is if they like detailed that, we need to like call certain pizza restaurants and like tell them to make it faster, right? In markets that we don't even drive in. I don't know. That one sounded better in my head, because the whole conversation, it doesn't matter. So, you know what? This is just another passive aggressive message from DoorDash, and I don't know.
I don't get it. To be honest with you.
It's no different than handling any other food item, right? You try to keep it up, right? There's an Indian place in my market, right? And they use these. It's like tin, like but like the top is 10, the bottom is 10. And I'm sure that it does keep it warmer or something. The problem with it is
it sinks in.
Well, no, but like it spills extremely easy. Like more often than not, I end up having a slight mess in my car after delivering from this place. So, and that is despite my best efforts, knowing what I'm getting myself into, right? So I'm putting this stuff in my hot bag on the floor of the car and just praying that I don't hit a speed bump slightly too fast or something like that. But you know what? I want to see them put out an email saying, we're not going to deactivate you for a low acceptance rate. And this is how you use your sick time in Seattle. That's what I want to see, not how to handle a fucking pizza. Excuse my French there. I told you I was feeling persnickety today.
You're feisty.
So anyway, Kim, at this point, I think we should come back to the Uber Eats scam next week. We'll cover that next week. And I think we do have some funnies though, right?
We do have some funnies. Yeah.
All right. So this was a Uber Eats customer and a driver. So the first message was cropped, I guess, or you had to like scroll up to see it. But basically, it was the customer saying, "Hey, I live in a duplex, and you put it at the wrong door." And the driver said, "Ma'am, it was the next house over. I don't." Sorry, this is really small. I didn't know the house was a duplex. I'm here right now. This is unbelievable. So I'm not sure what they mean by right here, but whatever. A 10-minute trip for the house next door. Are you serious? I made an honest mistake. The customer says, bring it to me, please. Next time, check the address. Thank you. So let us know in the chat if you think the driver should have turned around and handed it to the customer or put it on the correct doorstep. Keep in mind, duplex, right? It's her next door neighbor that got the delivery. Kim, what do you think?
If it was me and I was literally down the street or right around the corner, I probably would have just turned around and just did it real quick. But at the same time, it's their next door neighbor. Just go outside and grab your food.
So you've got two things going on here. You have a driver who wasn't being careful from the looks of it, and you have a customer being unreasonable. If an Uber Eats driver were to deliver to my next door neighbor, I'm going to pop my head out the door and I'm going to go grab it myself.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the end of it. I'm not going to harass the driver and ask them to come back after they articulated that they're 10 minutes away. Fuck out of here with that, Karen. So just my synopsis. So, hopefully the driver learned something to check for addresses. So, I mean, sometimes duplexes will have, in my market, at least they frequently have two different addresses. So you'll have like 217 and then like 219, right? Occasionally.
As I say, I have one better. I have a couple of neighborhoods that's like, even townhouses are 27 and 27A, and you think you're pulling up to the right one. And if you're not careful, like you have to look for the A versus the 27, and it could get complicated if you're not very careful. That'd probably mess with me too, but that's where the market knowledge comes in, and that's where it takes time. So yeah, we do have duplexes here that will have like one address and then it'd be like an AB. Yeah. But frequently the duplexes in my market have two different addresses. So gotta watch out for that. So, and interestingly, depending on which neighborhood you're in, usually dictates how the address is laid out. So like one neighborhood could have the two different addresses for a duplex, and whereas the next neighborhood could have one address with an A and a B. Yeah. So I think okay. I was like, I'm not sure we should skip this one, but it's funny. All right. So quick little backstory. So this driver claims that the customer had texted them a phone number to text them back on because they wanted to communicate something that they didn't want done to the Dasher app. I don't know if I believe that to be true, but this is funny. So I'll read this one, Kim, don't worry. So it says, hey, this is your DoorDash driver. You wanted me to text you.
And the customer responds with, "Ever been jerked off for $80?" The driver responds, "LOL, no thanks."
I like how they put the LOL, like that makes it better.
I know. Well, I mean, that's a very specific dollar amount too, right? And like, no, I mean, 72, yes, but not 80. Like, come on. I mean, I'm assuming that's an offer.
First of all, guys, never text your personal contact information ever to any customer whatsoever, because now they have your telephone number. Please, for the love of God, always use the messaging within the app so stuff like this will never come to your phone.
So I've got another tip here. On the rare occasion that you do have to contact a different phone number, like, for example, if it was a boss or something that ordered to their office and wanted you to like get in touch with somebody else, like, obviously, that's not going to work if they need you to, call a different number. There are free apps that you can get. You can do it through Google Voice. You can get like a VoIP number, VoIP. And then that way they don't get your real number. There's an app called like Text Free or something, which you can do the same thing. That way your private information isn't out there and you can still follow the delivery instructions. So, but I found the wording of this quite funny, and this is a problem that drivers deal with. It's a funny way to kind of have this conversation, Kim. I'm sure women get it way worse than men, but there are occasions where guys get hit up too for, additional favors. So, of course it hasn't happened to me, because why would it, right? Like, but I don't know. You know what? I just wish that we could do the job and nobody got sexually harassed. Wouldn't that be nice?
A fantastic world that we would live in, but I don't think that's reality.
I know. So, I believe that we do have one more. We do. So, dog owners tried to talk to somebody outside the front door without letting their dog out. That is so true.
Yeah, it is.
So I got quite a...
This is my biggest pet peeve, though, with dog owners. Like, if your dog is rambunctious and it could be the friendliest dog ever and the cutest dog ever, but they're rambunctious and they are going to go run out as soon as they see somebody, why would you hand it to me? Just leave at door and all problems are solved. Like, I never understand that. And it happens, like, I can't even tell you how many times a day.
Kim, for the next week's funny, we need to get the video of the dog busting through the window.
Yeah.
So remind me about that, and I'll see if I can track that video down.
I will.
That's perfectly. It's one of those things you just got to see. All right, guys. So thank you so much for spending a little over an hour of your time with us today. We are grateful you are here with us. We'll be here next week, same time, same place for Money Hungry. And
we have a guest next week.
We do.
We do. Do you want to announce who it is?
Nope.
Okay, then I guess it'll be. Okay, then I guess it'll be a surprise.
I think I'm a little I'm a little cautious now after like one experience, and so I kind of just like want to make sure that it's all going to pan out first. So not that I have any doubt that this person is going to show, because I think it'll be fine, but just to err on the side of extreme caution, I think I'd rather keep our guests tight-lipped for now.
Well, then,
we've got
next week.
I will say this: we've got some pretty big names coming up, and some really awesome people. So we're excited to talk to them. All right, guys. Thank you again for joining us. Same time, same place next week. Catch you later.
Bye, everyone.